Hey team, and welcome. I'm your host, Carrie, creator of Mother Life, your destination for all things real talk and parenting. This is the IRL group chat, where we talk about the wild balancing act of pursuing careers and passions while also doing our best to show up for our kids. Join me every week as I sit down with some badass parents in my closet and we talk about their careers, kids, and relationships and all of the weird shit that comes up when you're trying to balance the seemingly impossible. Knowing you want to start something meaningful, having a vision for your baby, raising them to do good, to be kind, to hopefully make a good living, getting them out of the house and standing on their own 2 feet. It could be parenting or it could be entrepreneurship. And in the case of Vanessa Dew, it's always been both. And her distinct personality comes across in her approach to both. She's a leader, she's organized, she's ambitious and mission-driven. She respects tradition, but never if it gets in the way of building something better. Vanessa is the co-founder of Health-Ade, probably the most recognizable kombucha brand around, and actually the only kind I've ever had. She started the company with 2 of her best friends, and so much of her adulthood has been punctuated by the trajectory of this juggernaut business. Losing her mom, meeting her husband, starting a family, it all happened while going full speed ahead on building a professional dream. We get the benefit of talking to Vanessa when she's got some breathing room. Health-Ade sold to a new owner in 2021, and Vanessa left only a year or so ago. That means, like so many of us, Vanessa is reconciling and reconfiguring career aspirations and parenting identities and learning the subtle art of listening to yourself first. Enjoy.
You have a great closet.
It's a good closet.
This is a great closet.
Like, it wasn't built to house my sweatpants, you know?
But it has a podcast studio
Yeah.
and sweatpants, so it works out. I love it.
Just my phone. Which means that my husband can still reach me and my mom.
Oh, I'm going to do that as well.
But, you know, you can't ever, like, fully airplane. I feel like I can't fully airplane mode my phone because what if there is a child emergency?
Like, full do not disturb. I'm like,
yeah, that's my husband's problem now.
yeah. I was like, my son does have the flu at like 104. Like, the flu is no bueno this year. And he avoided it when we got it a month ago. But then now he has it.
This is my Hey, Siri, set a reminder to call the doctor to get a flu shot.
I'm excited to be here.
Okay, I'm excited to have you. So, you know what we do here. We're gonna start with little Vanessa. Mm-hmm. We're gonna talk about growing up. You grew up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you grow up in
Encino?
Okay, so you grew up in Encino.
I grew up in Encino.
She's
I'm
a Valley girl
through and through. I'm vying to maybe come back here, but my husband's staunchly opposed. But grew up in Encino.
And you guys are in Pasadena now?
Pasadena.
Staunchly opposed. Isn't that kind of the same thing? No.
Yeah, it could be.
Like,
yes.
vibe-wise, like, what's the difference?
I don't. He calls the Valley the armpit of LA,
Oh, and so he's just down to fight. He's just down to fight.
Exactly, fighting words. I'm like, what? Anyway, we met in the actual armpit of LA, which was downtown. And anyway, I moved to Pasadena. He's from OC. It's not much better.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Husband. What's his name?
Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we love the Valley. We have a lot of nice things to say about it.
I know.
You know what? Not being from here, I don't have any of those like associations.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
like, so for me, I was just like, I want sidewalks. I want to be able to walk to a pizza shop or coffee shop or both. And I want the option of good public school.
Yeah.
And so there's like 4 places.
Yeah. Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
You know,
exactly.
like, or whatever it is. Like, those were my, coming from New York, like, I still want to be able to walk, but, you know, whatever. Like, I didn't want to be in the hills where you can't do that. But, okay, so you grew up here. She's a Valley girl, and you have siblings?
One sister younger. Okay. So I know birth order is a big deal here.
Yes.
So I'm the oldest. Definitely step into that role.
Okay.
For sure.
You give classic oldest.
Classic oldest, definitely. My sister, I don't know. She doesn't give classic younger, but
I feel like when there's just 2, sometimes those roles are like not as tidy. Like I feel like you have to have three. You have to have the middle for the youngest to fully actualize as the youngest in my absolute nonsense observational theory. Like you need the dynamic of more kids for everyone to be, but the oldest is always going to be an oldest.
Yeah, I'm definitely an oldest. Like just caretaking. This is where I'm not the oldest. I'm not that conservative.
Okay.
Like I'm definitely like a risk taker, and I'm okay with flying by the seat of my pants, which is also very like non-Virgo like.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, are you like a spreadsheet girl? Are you like is your house color coded and organized?
No. Okay, I would say I desire that, but getting through that is very tough for me.
Same.
So I want the output.
Yeah.
But like the step 1, 2, 3 to get there is like not my
it's not like naturally flows out of you.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right, great. We have that in common. Okay, so and how many years apart are you?
Almost 4.
Okay, so you're 4 years apart.
Yeah.
And does she live here also?
She lives in Santa Cruz.
Okay.
And so she's been gone ever since college and never coming back. She's like an LA girl in San Francisco.
Sure.
And never changing.
Yeah.
But she just had her 3rd baby.
Wow.
And
congrats,
she's in it.
sis.
Yeah. Just living in it.
Everybody's just living
in it. I know. She's like true mother life.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. She is in it. Okay, so growing up, your parents were together their whole marriage.
My mom passed in 2016.
Yes.
And, you know, they were together, but it was also, would they have chosen to be together if they had alternative you know, like, I don't know, the Asian guilt, the Catholic guilt, the, like, obligation, like, I don't know.
Well, and also it's like they got married at a time, I'm assuming, where it's just like everybody's getting married. Like there isn't an option to not do that. And also the, like, criteria you're looking for in a partner are vastly different than what we think about now.
Totally.
So
like the what if.
Yeah, the compatibility thing of, like, shared interests, similar, I don't know, wavelengths or whatever, like those things aren't on the radar at that point.
So different. I know. So I mean, I thought that they were fine, but then it's not until I got older that I'm like, is that the type of like happy marriage that is exemplary? Like I don't think so.
Yeah.
Nor do I think it's for that generation, but
like they weren't giving cuddly, affectionate.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like,
but were they giving that to you guys either? Not to totally tap into every Asian stereotype.
They were not. Yeah. Okay. They totally were not. I mean, my dad didn't say I'm proud of you until like, I don't know, circa like 6 years ago. Maybe there was an I love you if he felt really moved to do so, but it was hard pressed to get any emotion.
Was it like I'm going to show you I care about you through food? Was it through showing up to stuff?
Through showing up. And then also like money was like a weird thing. It's just like, well, I'm paying for all this, so obviously I love you.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay for this stuff if I didn't care about you.
Yeah, it's like, and it'd be like, well, I basically spent a Porsche on your education, or like weird comparisons like that. Either not intentionally making me feel bad, but like like making the comparison so I know how much he loved me.
Right. Don't make me say obvious things.
Yes, that was it. So so it's a weird relationship with like not just affection but also money in that way.
Yeah.
Because then I grew up, then I just was like, well, I don't want your money. Like, I don't want that. Like, I'd rather have just the affection, but I don't want your money. So it's like a rebellion for me, not so much my sister, of just like everything anti taking money from my parents.
Yes, I was very similar. And I don't know if it came from the same place or whatever, but I was sort of, I think, made to feel guilty about money being spent on you, mainly from my dad. But yeah, going to a good college that they paid for, and I'm obviously incredibly grateful for that. But like the minute I graduated, I was just like, I was sending him money to cover my health insurance because I was obviously still
under it.
Yeah, but I was like sending him money for my premium. Because it was just like this. I want you to care about me as the person and not justify like lack of engagement because you're paying for stuff.
Right. That doesn't cover it up.
Totally get that.
Yeah.
Now, you grew up here in Encino, and what were sort of some of the things that you were into as a kid?
So all the sports to make me be like extracurricular activities to put on a resume, right? Like I did the AYSO, I did the Chinese school on Saturday mornings because I'm Chinese and I should learn Mandarin.
Yeah.
But then I was like an outsider in that world because I went to like a private all-girls school. I went to Catholic school where there's no Asian people, so I had no inherent Asian friends.
Oh, interesting.
So I show up at this like Chinese school and I'm like, hi. And then no one really wanted to like be my friend. And then, in my regular 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, I'm just like the Asian person.
Right.
So it felt like
you didn't fit in
I didn't fit in either place. But I did all the sports stuff here. I did all the like AYSO was a big one. I did that for like years. And then
what is that?
Soccer.
Yes.
I did
okay, I was about to say,
soccer.
I feel like that's something we considered signing my son up for.
It like becomes a thing or it doesn't. You're
Yes.
like you're fully in it, or like
Yeah.
it overtakes your life, or you just don't engage, and that's probably better and healthier.
I'm tempted to not engage. Yeah.
Yeah, and
when sports, like at this age, we have young kids.
Yeah.
When it starts to feel a little too intense and they're like 4, I just immediately check out. I'm
No,
like, bye. I can't.
totally. I was a little like in Pasadena. There's this group of just a lot of moms. They have their kids in like one-on-one fencing or like judo, and I'm like, I don't know, can they even do a jumping jack right now?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what's the point? And then it's a little turn-offish to me.
Yeah. Well, it's just sometimes I like, if you really loved something as a kid and you had a passion for something, I totally understand wanting your kids to like be exposed to that passion. Like I have a friend who is a musician and she loved her instrument and she wants to expose her kids to that. And I'm like, I totally get that.
Yeah.
You want them to have that experience, to have that discipline of like trying something, and it's something that you emotionally connect to. To sign up for a bunch of stuff because you're hoping it will look good on the private school applications or whatever, that doesn't resonate. I understand people who do it. It doesn't resonate with me personally.
Yeah. And I just don't have the energy to keep up with all that stuff.
It's too many things.
It's too many things. I know. I'm just like, I'm not trying to be an Uber driver. My kid.
Yes.
But I did all the things because like I did basketball, tennis, soccer, volleyball until like, my height kind of selected me out of certain things.
She's a petite lady, guys.
Yeah, I'm vertically challenged, as some would say. So that basically self-selected me out of a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so you're into sports. Up until there's an asymptote, but you're into sports.
Yeah.
And your parents are showing up to your sports stuff.
Yeah. Very involved.
Very involved, very supportive. Now, when you say you're Chinese, are your parents Chinese American or did they immigrate?
So my dad immigrated here, and then so he came here when he was like 16, and then my mom basically grew up here, so she's Chinese American, but like my grandma had her like when she was a newborn, like just here, so it was like very, very fresh. So I call myself like 1.5. Like I'm like the 1.5 generation.
Got it. I like that.
So I have that immigration family mindset, but then also very Chinese American.
Yes. Okay. Got it. And the reason why I did ask is because I feel like there are a lot of expectations on kids, especially firstborn kids, when your family has sort of given up everything to move to a new place, to start over. You have these like hopes and dreams for your kids that can feel really loaded on the kid.
Yeah.
Did you feel any of that sort of stuff?
I did, because I felt like I needed to be successful in whatever definition that was, and traditionally I think it would be the doctor route, and so I thought I was going to be a doctor for the longest time, and obviously I burst that bubble for my parents, but then I also felt like I disappointed myself too, because everything I ever known was like, obviously I'm going to be a doctor, but then
what is it about being a doctor?
It's just like the prestige of having like a doctorate degree. You spend all your years like educating yourself to like be something.
Yes.
And like that's like
you got the letters.
Yes,
you got
all
the societal, it's like a collective societal understanding of achievement.
Yeah. And especially I think in the Asian world it like means something.
Yeah.
Although my mom never really put emphasis on that, and my dad never formally said that. It was just maybe like
you could feel it.
I could feel it
under the surface.
Yeah, it's like what are you going to be successful? And
right.
that my definition of was like, well, obviously it's going to be a doctor.
Interesting.
And so they never explicitly said you're on your way to med school, like you have to do this. But everything they geared me toward was like,
wait, so this is all the more interesting knowing your career trajectory.
That I totally threw it to the wind. Yeah.
The GSK chapter. So, so like you were, and you know, some could also say like Health-Ade, like there are aspects of making people better, healthier in what you do. So there is a little bit of a through line there.
There is for sure, because when I went, I went to UCSD. All UC schools are super competitive. Yes. You're like, oh, I'm not the best anymore. I'm just like one of many of the best. And so I'm like, I don't think I'm going to compete, nor do I think this is my passion to literally pipette my way through a lab and like try and gain the favor of like the lab director. So when in college, I was like, well, I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm going to go still in medicine because I'm kind of a science dork, but then I'm going to go into like the front of house. And so that's where GSK came in and pharmaceuticals came in. And I thought I was going to heal the world through medicines and innovative medicine. But then I was disillusioned with that whole system. Because
what sorts of like jobs were you doing in that world?
So the first internship I had was a political action, like basically going door to door around Medicare and changing the laws around Medicare. So I thought that was really cool to advocate for old people. Yeah. The elderly. I don't know what's politically correct. But then, so I did that. And
old people are de facto elderly and vice versa.
Yes.
So you're good, I think.
Thank you. So I did that. And then I did a rotation in marketing. And then I went to sales like right after school. And then it just seemed to be, I thought I was going to change doctors' perceptions about everything. And then it wasn't that.
Yeah.
It's like...
It's a big machine. I mean, it's a huge, huge machine.
Yeah. And so the medical system of the U.S. is just not set up for success in so many ways. And here I am, this like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed post-college person, be like, hi, I'm here to tell you about this newest blah, blah, blah drug. And then they're like, okay, put it there with all the rest and I'll sign for this. So it was like a very humbling experience, because I'm like, wait, I'm literally going to help your patients. Like, how do you want to do this? Let's talk. Yeah. And no one's trying to talk. You know, it's just, let me just do my thing, get my insurance payout, and we're good.
Were you like, so my dad's a doctor, and I remember growing up, he would always, and I know the laws around this have changed, but maybe they hadn't by then, but like he would always come home with so much free shit from the pharma companies. Totally. Like, backpacks and pens and stuffed animals and like gift cards to nice restaurants and all of this stuff. Was it like that when you were in sales, where it was like you were trying to also schmooze these people?
That's totally, I mean, when the time I went in, I think it was less because they had codes now.
Yeah, like I think that's changed a lot. Yeah.
So it was less, but still the same thing. It's like, who can take them to the nicest dinner? Or the one speaking event that we had, like, who could do it at like the nicest Beverly Hills restaurant versus like, you know, the restaurant in Los Feliz, you know, what's nicer? So it just disillusioned me to like why people do, like, motivations on the healthcare system. And if you read most drugs, they say like the first like line of defense is diet and exercise, but no one's talking about diet and exercise when you're like in the medical field. So it's just very frustrating to feel like you can change that system. And that's when I was like, okay, like I got to get out of this. And that's when I went to business school and try to change my trajectory in every way.
Now, when you were in your GSK years, like those companies pay really well, right? Like, were your parents like, cool, like you're not a doctor, but you're making money and you're financially self-sufficient? Did you feel like they were like, good job?
No head nod? I think they were more like, okay, you're like relatively safe.
You guys should see Vanessa's face right now. She's like, they totally were not impressed.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure when I told my dad I got the job, he was like, oh, cool, you'll be surrounded with the other Barbie and Kens. Like, cool. And I was like, what does that even mean? And
wait, what did he do for a living?
So he is a money manager. Okay. But he has like a very engineering background. And so this is like, you know, not his jam. But the stereotype, especially in pharmaceuticals and in sales, was you're like very put together. You're like a Barbie and Ken clone.
You do have really good eyelashes. Oh. Your eyelash game is...
Lulu would say thank you because she's my eyelash lady. Shout out to her.
Shout out Lulu.
Shout out
Might
to
be
Lulu.
coming to see you soon. Jeez.
But no, like that was the response from my dad. And I was like, okay, well, clearly this is not like a very superficial profession in his eyes. And I think they just thought, okay, she can survive on her own. She has like money, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think they approved in the sense of like, oh, you're doing well in life.
Right.
Yeah. You're definitely not succeeding at the game.
And then when you told them you wanted to go to business school, what was the reception?
They were like, okay, something that we can wrap our arms around. Like,
Right.
this makes sense. And
Yeah.
then they're like, how are you going to do that? And my company paid for it at the time.
Oh,
And
amazing.
so that was all nice and dandy. And they're like, what are you going to do?
That was at USC?
That was at USC. And then they're like, what are you going to do? I was like, well, I think I'm going to go into consulting because it felt glitzy and glamorous and jet setting because you have to be on a plane all the time.
Yeah.
I quickly learned that's like not my jam either for many reasons. But
Yeah.
my parents, they could easily understand the path. They're like business school, corporate job, W-2, great like IRA,
Yeah.
401k, all that stuff. So like, okay, good path. Congrats. And I'm like, thank you. And my dad's the USC Trojan. So he's like, I advocate for
Right.
this. Yeah.
So this ticks some boxes for him. And did your mom work out of the home or was she stay at home?
No, she was actually a corporate person all her life. And so this is where I always felt like she had like many different lives she wanted to live, but could never live any of them. So she went to business school too. She was an engineer by trade. She was trying to like, she was a VP or corporate strategy, which is very rare for an Asian female back in those days.
Interesting, yeah.
But then she was also just a mom. And so she advocated for me for this because
Just a mom, Vanessa?
that's true. I should never how could I even? But she could never like be fully in any of them. And
Right.
so she was always like split in two. But yeah, she was always very supportive of this business school route. But I always think that she's like, what are you trying to do with your life?
Right.
It was always a question. Like, what are you trying to do?
Did you ever have an answer for that? That's a really fucking hard question.
Yeah.
And also an interesting question coming because it sounds like from an early age, you're like, I want to make my family proud.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do what you guys want me to do. And then one of the people that you're trying to do proud is turning around being like, but what do you want? And you're
Yeah.
thinking like, well, what do you want me to want?
Yeah, it was like a little bit of a mind fuck too
Yeah.
when she started asking me that because then I couldn't truly answer her.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, be happy? Is that a thing? And then she's like, what does happiness mean? Like she's getting out very profound.
Yeah. She like took some mushrooms secretly
Yes.
before she started
Yeah,
talking.
I was like, okay, well, and she's like, well, I want you to be happy too, but what does that even mean? So I was like, anyway, she started going down this path. And I remember it was in business school where then I decided to start a business, but she straight up thought I was heartbroken and doing things on like a depressive like tilt because she's like, it just seems like you're making decisions based out of.
Did you have a bad breakup at some point in this story?
In business school. I think there was a breakup that I was like, oh, really rocked me, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like the worst. And
Yeah.
she, in her eyes, she's like, oh, you must be acting on tilt. Like, what do you
Right.
want to do?
She brought it back to like a man influencing what
my
you-
decisions
Right.
and everything. I was like, can't I just make these decisions because it's what I want to do? But
Yeah.
she was always trying to get to the bottom of it.
Right. Really try and figure out Vanessa.
Yes.
So when you were in business school, were the classes you were taking, was it all stuff that was like, oh, this is really fun. Like this is resonating with me. I'm into this.
Yeah, I can't say that about the accounting classes,
Ugh,
but like
I tried to
not
do like an
mine.
online accounting class just to educate myself. And there's so many things where I'm like, this isn't logical.
Yeah.
This isn't logical.
Yeah, like debits and credits. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, okay, we'll
Forget it.
leave it there.
Yeah.
And then, but everything else around entrepreneurship was awesome. Like, once I started getting into those classes, it really moved me to just want to do something on my own. Actually, the first class I really took that, like, I paid attention. I was like, okay, I'm into this, was social entrepreneurship. So it's more how to start, like, do good, but then also
Do well.
do well.
Do well by doing good. Or
Yes,
do good by
exactly.
doing
Like, triple
well.
bottom line, all
We
that
love a
stuff.
triple bottom line.
Yeah. So that was really the first class. I was like, okay, I'm into this. How do I do more of this? And then I just went on that path in school.
And where does your now husband enter this picture?
So he enters circa 2016, actually end of 2015.
Okay.
We met on Bumble. So I swiped right on him on Thanksgiving Day. It was 2015. So this was 2 years after I graduated, in the throes of Health-Ade. And I was up at like 4 a.m. on a Thanksgiving day. And his response was like, who the F is up at 4 a.m. on Thanksgiving day? Well, like, what are you doing? And I just remember I had a bevy of things to do for the business before I actually did family things. But I just was an early riser, and I swiped right. And I wrote Happy Thanksgiving Day, turkey leg, turkey leg, turkey leg, because girls have to make the first move
Yes.
on it. That was my opening response. He's like, I will never forget the turkey leg emoji. Okay. But yeah, he came in end of 2015.
2015. Okay, so there's a gap here. So you finish business school, and while you're in business school, you have this sort of inkling like, I want to start my own thing.
Yeah.
And what do you do at that point?
So I talked to, at the time, my best friends, still my best friends. And I was just like, I think I want to not go the consulting route. And they were not in business school with me. And I was like, but everyone else in my school is going consulting or finance. I think I just want to do my own thing. And I was talking to them about, it was my birthday. And I was talking to them about different business ideas. We're in the jacuzzi of my apartment.
Where all good ideas happen.
Late at night after like 5 glasses. And then they're like, yeah, this is so exciting. Let's talk about it more. What's the next step? And so we just started this entrepreneur club together.
And they're a couple.
They're a couple.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're dating, and now husband, wife. And there would be other people that we would talk with in our dinner meetings. We called it our entrepreneur club. But then it just ended up being us. And it was just like great wine, great food, talk about businesses, ideas. And it was awesome. It was like such a fun time, but it was also like felt like we were being productive too.
Yeah. And you
so
guys just clicked. Like you
we
worked
just
really
clicked.
well together.
Yeah.
There wasn't any sort of like, they're a couple, I'm over here, I'm getting overruled or whatever.
No,
it was just
never.
like everybody was, you guys were all a team.
Yeah, we're all a team.
And everybody had different superpowers?
Different superpowers. And if anything, me and the dude, even though me and the chick Dinah, we met at GSK. And then her now husband, Justin, who's in the picture, like oftentimes, if anything, I felt like we were on the same side, and Dinah's like, what? And then but we're all on the same team, all superpowers, like separate to each of ourselves. And we just work so well. We call each other trifecta. So
I love that.
even now we have our little trifecta group.
Cute.
Still, we meet for like little Korean barbecue every couple weeks. So we're still super
Wait,
tight.
so you guys, how does the genesis of the kombucha piece come into this? So you guys know that you want to work on something together.
Yes.
You know you work well together. Where does kombucha enter the picture as the big idea?
So in school, I really learned like what's the problem? Like what's the problem we're solving to really start this business? But in our case, the problem was hair loss because Justin came back home and he had just come back from his hairdresser who was very concerned about him going bald. And he had worked for a hair loss company at the time, a hair cover-up company. And it's a big business. Like many people are worried about the same thing. So we're like, what if we can create an all-natural hair loss product? And enter kombucha. And we're like, oh, we heard that it could help. Dinah, she was been brewing it anecdotally. Like it's been good for many things, not just your
Just
gut.
a very like California woman making her kombucha.
Yes, and could work out for health, hair loss. So we decided to put all efforts into kombucha for hair loss as our thing. After a couple weeks and months of like washing his hair, after we put on a little kombucha SCOBY mask on his head and seeing if he lost more hair or less hair, like that was not going to be our claim to fame, clearly.
Just like, I just have this man as your just like lab rat. And
Yes.
you guys are just experimenting on his head.
Yes.
Counting
basically.
the hairs in the sink.
Yes, exactly. And then we didn't realize it was his hair or his dog's hair because they all had the same length hair, catching it on a cheesecloth underneath. So it was not the way that we were going to win this game. But we did have really good kombucha, so we decided to like toss that hair loss route, bottle it at the farmer's market because that's all we knew. We're farmer's market people. And we're like, let's just sell this and we'll make some money back and then move on to whatever our real business is. So that was March 25th, 2012 was our first bottle sold at Brentwood Farmer's Market.
The best farmer's market.
The best.
best.
Many rows. That first day we're like in the back row by the bathrooms, like no one goes there. we had to start out somewhere.
So you started and then it just goes gangbusters. People are selling out.
Yeah, selling out every weekend at the farmer's market. I mean, we had to like sample. We were very, I mean, when you go to the farmer's market, you know, there's some people just hanging out like on their cell phones. We were like active, like,
Yeah.
hey, let's try some, you know, Health-Ade, all that stuff. So we were growing it, we are working it. And then one farmer's market turned into 7. That turned into, this doesn't make money. How do we make money? So we decided to sell wholesale and self-deliver all around Los Angeles. That was around like 2013. And then we got our first like investment, and that gave us like real power to like grow into like grocery stores. And then fast forward, and it's like became one, you know, just so many amazing stories of the team just working it to like grow Health-Ade. And I'm just proud of all the work that the team has done.
I mean, it's truly, obviously there are a lot of different brands now, but I feel like people who consume it, it's one of like the brands that you really know. It has huge brand recognition. And it's like, were your parents like, cool, kombucha? Or what were they thinking?
Oh, though this was fun. So like I said, my mom thought I was doing things just because I was on tilt.
Right.
And then my dad thought I was clinically depressed. Or
Sure.
by the time, so I remember this so distinctly. We were fundraising for our first round. And I remember being in a gas station in Hollywood before I go out for the night. I was telling my dad, like, oh, we're raising money. I would love if you could like be in this, you know, just as like a show of like confidence. You're like proud of this or something your daughter's. And he's like, why would I invest in beverage? But he did end up investing. And I'm like, okay, Dad. But I don't think he actually understood the gravity of like our growth or what we were until his best friend in Georgia, who's a very Georgian man, said, hey,
Georgia country or
Georgia state.
Okay.
He's very Southern. Yeah. And he's like, hey, I saw Health-Ade at one of the grocery stores here. Like, your daughter's really doing it. It wasn't until my dad
External
heard that.
Validation.
Then he was like, hey, Ken saw it and blah, blah, blah. Like, you're really doing something. I'm like, thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, thanks,
Shout out Ken.
Yes, I know. Ken Maddox, been there forever.
What a guy.
Yes, he's the one to really turn my parents.
Turn their heads.
Yes,
to
totally.
And you said that your husband on that fateful Thanksgiving enters the picture and you're several years into Health-Ade at that point.
Yeah, we were, 3 years in.
And, you know, there's so many stereotypes about like startup life, how you're just like bootstrapping shit together. Nobody's sleeping. You're scrapping it all together. Everyone's being resourceful. Everybody's exhausted. Yep. Was it that stereotype for you guys?
Oh, 100%. Like, there was many times I went on dates pre-Kevin where I had like ginger in my hair because we're like juicing that day. I smelled like fermentation, which is delicious. And it was like up early, late nights, and just like the mental burden of like trying to make it.
Yeah. Never
really ended until, I don't know, we made it, which was like 8 years later. Like, there's still startup life was a long time.
Yeah.
And so when Kevin came into the picture, first of all, my dating life was kind of a mess at that point, only because I would get this contingent of like LA.
How old are you at this point?
Let's see, 2015, about 30.
Okay.
So yeah, 30. And I would get this contingent of guys who's like finance, douchey, super alpha, like, oh, well, what is that? Like, I don't know what that is. And then I get this other contingent of guys who are like, I don't know, startup, like super conservative, a little like scared of this world. So I just felt like there was no one for me at that time.
Yeah.
But I will say Kevin was the first one to be not intimidated, but also like genuinely curious about all that it was.
Yeah.
And so I love that about him.
Oh,
Still do.
Kevin.
Still do.
And what sort of profession is he in?
He's a lawyer. He's one of those who just loves the law line.
Loves the language.
Loves the language.
Okay. Loves the comma and a period.
Those briefs, man.
Oh, God. Okay, so he also wasn't a stranger to like working long hours, working really hard.
Yeah.
You guys could sort of be in the work trenches together in that way.
Yeah, I think so. And he very much like respected and like understood that I had the things I needed to do, and he was just trying to like be there for me as he needed to.
Great.
Yeah.
And at what point had you discussed wanting to have a family? Collectively?
So we did, and he did, and except I think where it really came to a head, do you remember like years ago when there's New York Times put out like 50 questions to fall in love?
Less than a year ago, I had to have major surgery to address my Crohn's disease. Since surgery, I have overhauled how I live and how I eat. I focus mainly on protein, eating whole foods, and mainly the Mediterranean diet. I lift weights several times a week, and I'm trying to manage my stress. But part of the success of this overhaul has been that I still allow myself to eat delicious things that aren't strictly on the plan. It feels more sustainable that way. As a consequence, I've become very picky about the type of sweet treats I indulge in. I want them to be delicious, made with high quality ingredients and finite. If it's more than 3 bites, it's not really serving me anymore. Enter Rose Macaroons. This Mutha-founded business is truly the ideal 3-bite treat for me to enjoy some sweetness and feel fully satisfied after eating just one. If you're a fan of coconut, this deeply satisfying treat is just for you. Head to rosemax.com for 20% off with code MUTHA20. I'll put this in the show notes along with founder Audrey Rose's wonderful Mother Life episode. Regular listeners to the pod will know I love to talk about the real stuff. And for many listeners, that real stuff is our aging bodies, our postpartum bodies. I've always marveled at my friends who just go commando in their leggings without a care in the world. I have a lot of questions for them, mainly around laundry. My body just isn't built like that, and turns out most women's bodies aren't. Between unpredictable discharge, you know I love to talk about discharge, and the risk of UTIs, there's a lot telling us that underwear is actually extremely useful. While underwear might be helpful, it's not always the vibe. Skimpies was invented by a fellow mother who wanted to live life in her leggings, without panty lines, without UTIs. Skimpies is a liner for your leggings that won't budge when you're working out, running to catch a bus, or just doing the unending amount of squats we all do all day long, picking stuff up from the floor. Head to skimpies.com to learn more and snag yourself a monthly subscription. If part of the motherhood journey is about reclaiming some confidence, some sexy in your body, let Skimpies help. Head to the show notes for more info, including a link to the founder of Skimpies, Bette Bentley's Mother Life episode. Use the discount code MUTHA20 to get 20% off your purchase. You know what one of my husband's biggest complaints is? He hates how I organize, or don't organize, the kid shit, especially the diaper bag. He claims that if he knew where to easily find stuff, he'd use it more and, by proxy, take the kids out more on his own. Well, game on, sir. Get your own bag. The Gojo Backpack by Silverback Supply Company is the move. Designed by a dad who was also sick of his wife's diaper bag shenanigans, it's the perfect bag for living life with a baby. It's got a padded sleeve for your laptop or tablet, bungees to secure that blankie or stuffy, a built-in changing pad, and more. I know the tradition is that you buy a cutesy diaper bag for new moms at the baby shower. But what if we flipped the script, started buying gear for the dads, set the tone that they're equals in this thing right from the get-go? If you've got a dad to young kids, a dad that's expecting, or really any parent that's into minimalist, modern design and needs to lug some kid shit around, hit them with something different. Go to silverbacksupplyco.com and use discount code MUTHA, MUTHA, for 20% off and free shipping and handling. I'll put a link in the show notes. Yes.
Yeah. So I think on that question list was like, what does your future family look like or something?
Yes.
And I think that was really a question starter for us. But by the way, I don't know if I fell in love with him at that point, but obviously it ended in a happy ending and we did that. So I'm just going to attribute it to that question.
Shout out New York Times. I'm actually going to, was it 50 or 26 questions?
It was some number.
Some number. I want to say, well, because I feel like there was a podcast, like a show that came out of it. Anyway, I'm going to put it in the show notes for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, because it is a fun thing to do if you are partnered or considering being partnered.
Yes. Yeah. So we did that. And we did talk about like kids and wanting kids. So we're on the same page with all of that. And, you know, a plus is that he was Asian. And like,
I was going to ask if you have similar backgrounds.
Yeah. Okay. So he's Chinese. And like we just got each other's family from like a cultural standpoint.
Yeah.
Like
there was a shorthand.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was very much a learning curve that he didn't like. It was very steep, and he got my family and I got his.
Right.
Yes.
He's like, of course your dad said the thing about the portion.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys knew you wanted to start a family. How does that, in your mind, compute with? I am foot is on the gas. I am in hardcore startup mode. Kevin's working his ass off doing whatever the hell it is that lawyers do. where does the pull the trigger, let's try and have kids come into the picture?
Yeah, before I met Kevin, I was actually considering having a kid on my own, like
Oh, wow.
without a partner.
What was compelling
I think
about that?
I saw a woman who did it and I was like, wow, she's awesome. And I love how ballsy she was. Granted, I did not know all that comes with like childhood and the support you need and all that stuff. It was very much like a naive, like I could do that too.
Right.
And so, but before that point, I don't think I ever seriously considered kids and all that went into it. It was just that lady who inspired me that I could be a mom also. And so I was like, I just don't think I'm going to meet a guy that is going to be my partner in the next 5 years. Why go through the egg freezing route right now if maybe I just want to do it?
Right.
And so I was seriously considering that. And then I met Kevin and jury was not still out, but I was like, okay, like I think that this is leading somewhere.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure Health-Ade, which was arguably my first baby, like was at least in like out of the awkward teenage phase before I felt comfortable to do anything.
It had at least submitted its applications to college.
Yes, exactly. So, and that was like an arbitrary, like, when is that really? But I think about that now, I'm like, wait, why did I wait so long? Because, when you have kids, you'll figure it out at any point in time.
Yeah.
And my husband is traditional lawyer, very conservative. So he very much was like taking his time, doing all the things that like you have to plan. You have to have X amount, like saved. You have to do all the things.
I feel like that's a very common thing.
But that's not me. And so actually, Oliver is an oopsie. In the best way.
Oliver.
We love you.
Happy surprise.
Yes, the best surprise. So, and we were well on our way. Like what happened was Kevin ended up proposing. I was so tired for like that day and like the next couple weeks. And then 3 weeks later, I found out that I was pregnant.
Oh my God.
So it did work out timing wise, I suppose. But
you're like, wow, getting engaged is exhausting.
I passed out for 12 hours. I didn't know that I had that in me. But then things just work out the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cute. And then Oliver arrives. And had you guys, you said that Kevin's a little bit more of a traditionalist in terms of how he thinks about planning and organizing. Had you guys talked about what are the roles and responsibilities, given you both have really demanding jobs? What was sort of the expectation? Were you like, we're just going to get a nanny out the gate? Are we going to, what were you guys talking about, if anything?
So it's it's 2020 and a lot of things.
That magical year.
That year of everything, right? So we had not yet sold our company yet, so we're still knee deep in it, operating. It was COVID. We're kind of in this house, like, how do I manage all this? And I don't think I knew the conversations to have with my partner beforehand to ready myself. There's actually a book. It's like How to Not Hate Your Partner After Childbirth, I think.
We'll find it. We'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, yeah. I should have read that before this. But it wasn't until I had Oliver and went through, like, 3 months of postpartum life and then going back to work where I felt like I was doing everything, but I was resenting Kevin in the meantime.
Totally.
So all the roles was like on me, but it's not because he was skirting responsibility.
Yeah, you just took it on.
I just took it on.
Yeah.
And I didn't verbalize like, I need you to do X. Because I truthfully think that he didn't know where to plug himself in. He's like, I'll wash these bottles. I'll see the baby at night. I'll do this. You sleep.
Yeah.
So the things that he knew, he did, but not like the mental burden of, okay, well, I got to get all this ready before I actually do my first call, like in the morning. So I need your help in the morning to do all the prep before I have to, like, we're on for work, like things like that. And then every stage of a kid's development, like as you've seen, it's like a whole new
set of shit they need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, who's rotating the clothes out of there? All those things are things that you don't know to verbalize until you're in it.
Yeah.
So, but I would say he's been the most open. He's like, just tell me and I'll do it.
Yeah.
So in that way, he's been a great hubs.
I think, having those conversations for me sometimes is like, I get nervous before having them because I either think I'm supposed to be doing it all or that he's gonna not want to do it. And also, I don't know if you guys had this, like, not everybody is in this position, and it is important to say that there were so many things I was doing that I massively resented doing. I'm not good at cleaning. Like, nobody who's ever lived with me would say like, wow, Carrie's really conscientious and organized. That's just not where I put my energy, and I'm not naturally good at that. And I don't think my husband really is either. But like, we both want to live in a clean, organized home. And so for a long time, I'm like trudging along trying to figure this out because I feel like I'm supposed to. And I'm just like mad at him.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, he's not trying to figure it out because he knows he's not good at it. Well, we need to solve this problem.
Yeah.
So like, we were able to get a housekeeper who I, joking, not joking, I always like saved our marriage in the sense of like, nobody was going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And certainly not as well or with as much love or intention as she does.
Totally.
And recognizing that like I could outsource that and it doesn't make me a bad mom or a bad partner it like took some doing.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And I was there. I feel like I'm still there at times because like you think like, oh, I could do this. Or like, for example, for me, like I'm going to take on the project of organizing my garage because then we can park our car. Then things are a lot easier for our kids to play, blah, blah, blah.
The fucking garage.
And same, I'm just like, I should have just hired an organizer from the beginning. And luckily, like when I broached that conversation with Kevin, he's like, yeah, we should do that. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you're like gearing up to buy a label maker or some shit that you don't know what to do.
And he's like, why would we do that? Like, you're not good at that. I don't have the time to do this right now. We should outsource this.
Yeah.
And it's kind of let me think about like, what else can we outsource so that we can be more present or at least happier or like not resentful of, in my case, my husband and making me think like he's making me do it, but he really wasn't.
Yes, that is very well said. That is totally what it is. And it's like everybody has different financial circumstances, different means, different stuff that they prioritize as well. Like for me, I'm like, I would rather spend money on our amazing housekeeper than like staying in a really nice hotel on vacation, if that's the trade-off, because for me, that's a value add that I cannot put a number on, where I can definitely put a number on the hotel night.
Totally. Yeah. 100%.
Kevin and you guys kind of, you both hit a rhythm in terms of who's doing what in parenting, and you're still very actively involved with Health-Ade.
Yes. Yes.
And at what point do you all, I don't even know how you say it in
like leave, exit?
Yeah.
Exit, yeah. So we sold in 2021. Justin left in 2021. And then me and Dinah left in 2023.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was
that part of like the arrangement of like phasing you guys out?
It was like the plan.
Everything in your head.
Yeah. It was like, okay, how do we get it? We couldn't just all leave at once. Yeah. And then we also wanted to make sure, I don't know, maybe it's a woman thing. No, I don't know. But I'm not going to sit here and assume. But I definitely, at least me, wanted to make sure I was there to transition the team, like as best I could.
Yeah.
So that it wasn't just like, bye, nice to know you. And I know Justin didn't do that either. His was more like planned originally, so like let's get someone to replace him earlier on and all that jazz. So but also like I would say, and this is more of a subconscious me thing that I didn't realize until after, it's like I didn't know my adult life really without Health-Ade.
Right.
And then now that I was a mom, like there's so many other things that do define me, but I think I was scared to leave it, and I wasn't able to say that.
Yeah.
Because if we're all like being honest here, like I probably should have left long ago when I wasn't happy about, like I was like, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah.
But I couldn't muster the courage to do that because of my own fear of like, what else after this?
Well, there's this really dangerous refrain that we've all heard, better the devil you know.
Oh, yes.
And I actually think that can sometimes fuck us up because similarly, we've all, I feel like so many people have that situation where you're really comfortable in a place, you know what the pitfalls are or whatever. And, people are like, well, especially around parenting, I feel like, well, you have a family now.
Mm-hmm.
This works and you know how it works. And maybe now you've built to a point where you have flexibility. So just like stay.
Chill,
right?
Yeah.
Whatever. Like you need different things now. And I actually do not think that is the move. Like if you are listening to this, there's so many people come on here with pivots and changes post-parenting. But like if you are listening to this right now and you are not happy in your job and you are thinking about just take some interviews and see how you feel.
Yeah.
Just like make the baby step. You don't have to go anywhere, but I feel like once you start putting yourself out there,
you see a whole different like life. And for me, it was just scared of who I was or wasn't without it. And it's like a crutch. It ends up being a crutch. And
like what skills do I have besides Health-Ade specific ones?
Yeah, exactly. So I was just questioning a lot. There's a lot of self-doubt. And like you said, it's kind of like when you become a parent, you kind of take the safe route for whatever that is to each person. And whatever that safe route is becomes just comfortable. It's like, why would I leave this? But you're actually living in mediocrity at that point.
Yeah.
So it's just not fulfilling and all that stuff. So anyway, did leave in 2023 in a great time too, because brought on a great leadership team.
You felt good about
I felt good about the exit.
For your first baby.
Exactly. For a first baby. And now it's like a fully functioning human, like married off. Yeah, it went off into the world.
And now though, you have got to be in a really strange place. Wait, how old is your youngest?
So when I left in my youngest is now almost 3, like in a couple weeks. So I had her in 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. So like also in like the middle of Health-Ade and transition stuff.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a mom of 2, you exit, but like in the grand scheme of our lives, this exit is very fresh for you. I mean,
yeah.
What, like a year and a half or something?
Yeah, a year-ish. Yeah.
You now are probably figuring out, I mean, I know we can talk a little bit about the foundation that you just launched, but like you're now in this whole new, who am I now? What am I doing? What's the next thing? And do you feel any sort of pressure of like, I have to come up with another great idea? Or how are you framing this next chapter?
So the first like 6 months to a year, like right after leaving, it was a weird time for me. So I would go out to public events or like whenever I meet people who were like not really part of my close circle, just acquaintances, they're like, so what's next? Or what are you working on?
Ugh.
And whenever I had that question, and my friend who was often with me in these events, she's like, you get this question a lot. And I was like, I think people are just, they don't know what to say. Because it's like, what's next, right? Yeah. But I would also answer them with different answers to all of them because I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I was just more like, oh, I'm going to travel. Or, oh, yeah, I'm totally working on something. Or it just, whoever it was and however I felt that day was like the answer I gave.
Yeah.
Because truthfully, like, I didn't know. And I was like a dandelion in the wind, I was just more like, oh, whatever. So I was traveling. I was doing art classes. I was just doing a lot of therapy. Just because like after you're in like a 12, 13-year sprint for like, it's a marathon, but really sprint. And then you just accumulate a lot of trauma from living it, right? And then I also equate it to like motherhood or parenthood, I guess. It's just like trauma that's built up that if you don't release the valve, it's going to like
you're going to lose your fucking mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had to heal over the last year too, just to really feel like, what do I even want to spend energy
Readjust your cortisol levels.
Totally. Like my inflammation, C-reactive protein was off the charts. I was like an adrenal gland, like exhaustion, like all this stuff. And so I had to just become healthy again.
Yeah.
And like mentally healthy.
Yes.
And be okay. There was this, actually one of your neighbors, Ellen Chen, Mendocino Farms.
Legend. God bless you,
yes.
woman. I haven't met you yet, but I want to shake your hand at some point.
She's one of my friends, and she was talking to me about relevancy and ego, and like just like what it feels like when you have something so big, but then like what is relevancy and ego to you after you leave it. And so I feel like that conversation really turned my mindset in terms of like, what am I doing things to feed my ego? Like, why am I trying to seek and chase relevancy? Like, it's not really my thing. Like, that's not where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So that really helped me get through a lot of like moments of the last year and a half. Not to be all cheesy, but like that kind of really
not
helped.
cheesy.
Yeah.
No, well, I remember when I was sort of coming up in the kind of public policy space, and I was, innovating, making these programs, doing all this stuff, working with the Gates Foundation, all of these things. And I would see my peers like show up on like Forbes 30 under 30 list or whatever. And my husband was like, why don't you go for some of this stuff? Like, you're doing amazing things. And like the Obama Foundation had a class of fellows and whatever. He's like, you should be going for all this stuff. And I sort of tried, but I felt really stupid because I was just like, this isn't the work that I'm doing, and I just want people to recognize me for the work, but this is like work to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like frustrating because I was like, I know that guy. Like, he's not fucking doing anything. Like, except getting on this fucking list.
Yeah.
I should be on that list if that's the people that they're having on the list. But also, I don't want to spend my time being on the list.
Right.
It's very confusing
Yeah.
when you're trying to advance and advocate for yourself to get opportunities.
Totally.
About how and where to spend your energy.
Yeah. And then when you have the like strength within you to be like, no, I don't need that. I'm just doing what I do because I know I'm good at it. It's meaningful and it's good work. That's when I feel like you hit like
the cha-ching.
Yeah, exactly. And so I needed to get there versus being like, oh, I'm doing this, or like falsely fill my time or tell people that I was like filling my time. And then I kind of just didn't care at a certain point because I was like, honestly, like I have young kids. I love spending time with them. And there was a part where I was like, everyone said, oh, you have 2 kids, so I'm sure you're spending time with them. But then I was thinking, I was like, yeah, but I do love spending time with them. There was a part of me that kind of hated that as like an excuse. It was a weird mind identity thing of being a mother or
100%.
Yeah. And it's like,
what you're reacting to, I think, is when you have built so much of your sense of self-worth. And this has come up a lot in the recent episodes, actually, like around your professional identity. And like you take pride in that and you are proud of the things that you've learned and accomplished and done. And then somebody just wants to put you firmly in one box now.
Yeah.
Like, you are a mom now only.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't feel good. Because, like, I am more than a mom.
Right.
I am a mom, and I am fucking proud of being a mom.
Right.
And I care so much about my kids. They are my life. And also, I am a person outside of my kids.
100%.
And one day they will leave and go on to live their lives. And I am still here as my own person.
Yeah. Well said. Totally.
You know?
That was the feeling all of last year because it was like this drastic spectrum of like, oh yeah, you're a mom now. And I'm like, yeah, but also and also, yeah. And then I was like, but I also love being a mom. And it's like one of the best things ever.
Yeah.
There's no other job like it. And
you don't have to not be proud of being a mom to be a professional badass.
Right.
Like, you can do both. You can give your kids kisses on the cheeks in public and stuff and still be taken seriously in a boardroom. Like, those things are not mutually exclusive.
Totally. And so I just needed to reconcile that for myself as people were like externally saying,
pushing it on you.
Right. And I'm like, wait, I was feeling self-conscious about just that role now. And I'm like, wait, why am I feeling like, I am just going on vacation with my kids and I love it. Like, I'm very thankful that I can.
Yeah.
And I'm going to enjoy myself as much as one can enjoy solo parenting. Thank you very much. But not really.
So tough.
Yeah.
Now we have to rewind a little bit briefly just to talk about the loss of your mom, because obviously that's informed some of the work that you're doing now. And also, you lost your mom young.
Yeah, it was 2016. So I met Kevin in 2015. I definitely think like losing my mom the month after, I feel like she brought Kevin into my life somehow.
This is like the 5th person who's been on this podcast, and this is how their partner entered this.
Oh my God.
So I'm starting to think maybe there is a supernatural theory at work.
Yeah, it like works through. It's like someone's still present. But yeah, I lost her in 2016. It was young, like in my mid-30s. And it wasn't unexpected, but it was also very like unexpected.
Yeah.
Because she was battling cancer for a while. As long as I could remember, since I was 6 years old, she's always had an autoimmune disease where she's been such a strong fighter all her life.
Yeah.
But because I was in the throes of Health-Ade, I remember I was supposed to go on this conference, like this food conference in San Francisco that weekend, and I didn't end up going because she passed away. But then we were raising our Series C money. All things were happening, and I just remember I let myself grieve for 2 weeks, but grief isn't like you turn it off, right?
You can't time block that in the calendar.
Yes, exactly. And then it was like, okay, I need to do these things. So I did all the things I needed to do, and life went on. But especially in the last year and a half, as I'm healing and, post Health-Ade trauma, then it's a lot of the grief trauma has come up too.
Yeah.
I've been just doing a lot of breath work, and through breath work, I've really felt like I've released a lot of that grief, but something in me still felt unsettled around processing it because it wasn't sadness anymore. It's more like celebrating her life and like everything that she was.
Yes.
And so that's really where the Aline Foundation was inspired to just start.
And so can we talk a little bit about the genesis of what it's doing now? I mean, also talk about a fucking startup mentality to have a very specific mission statement, which you're going to tell us about in a minute, and then to see a need and pivot because like world events have suggested that something's required immediately is such like an entrepreneurial thing to do rather than being like, I'm going to stick my heels in, this is the mission. You're like, no, I'm meeting a need. So tell us a little bit, what's the long-term ambition and mission and what are you working on in the short term right now?
So using my mom, Aileen, as the inspiration for this, she was always, like I said, doing all the things. Like she was the corporate strategist, she was the mom, she was planning all the events, all the ways the party host, giving to everyone, never herself. And not that she didn't have freedom to do so, I just never felt like she thought she had the time or really like choice to really say like me first. And so the whole idea of celebrating all that my mom would do is really like to give and allowing women, especially female founders, to have the time and space to like not just do all the things, but do well and feel well about themselves. So the original thought about the Aline Foundation was offering grants, so wellness grants to women. And interestingly enough, a lot of people talk about self-care and like you should do these things, but no one actually puts money where your mouth is about giving women that time and space to do so.
Space,
Right. So that was going to be the vision. I was going to start at the end of this year when I had like time to do it. But then the fires happened in LA and literally all hell broke loose here. And me living in Pasadena, only like a mile away from where the fires really were, it felt weird to just carry on with life as usual, saying like, well, I'm living life, bye. Like I'm driving through the fire burn area. And so it just was really hard concept for me to get around. And I'm like, well, I knew that because my mom did the adopt a family programs, like when, just adopting families during the holidays. I was like, what if I did something like that, but for female founders or women who lost their business or home in the fires who needed help, not just to rebuild, but also to feel good again. And so that's when I came up with this model of adopting a family in these wildfires, launching the foundation way earlier than I initially thought. And I've already gotten like the first batch of candidate or applicants, and I like was crying in the middle of the night.
God, I would not be able to, not a dry eye reading those.
Yeah. Sure. And I'm just like, oh my God. And my initial, like, I'm such a goal person. I was like, okay, I can tangibly like sponsor 3 families myself. So I'm just going to hit that. But then after seeing all the applicants, I'm like, well, I have to up the number. Like I can't not do this. So applications close at the end of this month. And then, come hell or high water, I'm going to find a way to really sponsor those that need the help. But it's been fun to just be starting something new again. And like you said, pivot to something that seems real and like in the now, because that's just how I operate. Like I need to be in the now and not so much like, well, in 3 years when I have the right strategy and position this, right?
Like start it messy if it needs to be a little messy and you can tidy it up as it goes, but like be responsive to the moment.
Yeah. And it feels like I'm not, like, I also love the way that this came about too, because when I went on this retreat in October, I went through this breathwork session. I really like thought about wellness for women. And in that same session, an older lady, she actually lost her mom like this last year. But I mean, it was time for her mom to go, but she did not process any of her grief. Like she was like weeping. Aww. So I invited her to do a special breathwork session with me and the breathwork facilitator. And it was in that moment of gifting her this session that I felt like everything changed for me. And I was like, I want to give other women this gift of healing and wellness. But I myself am not that coach or, I'm not the healer. But I'm like, how do I do this on a bigger level and really affect women and how they feel? And that was really the start of that.
So cool. Now let's talk a little bit about, obviously, you've thought a lot about what it means to be an independent woman in the world who can handle her own shit, don't need your money, dad, and also like building things and thinking about taking care of women. You have a boy and you have a girl. Raising these kids, already. Are there things that you're thinking about in terms of gender stuff for both of them that you like are like, oh, I want you to know these things. I have to figure out how to show you these things.
Wow, so much. Like every day, it's like a constant battle because I come from a family that's also very traditional Chinese, authoritarian. Like you do this, like don't ask questions, like all that. And I want to break that cycle, but for both my kids. But I also want a strong female, like that's not afraid to like have a voice. I also want to like raise a gentleman and someone who has like good values in that way, but also who has his own voice, but not letting,
not at the expense of other people.
Exactly. And so it's like this balance of how, not what I expose them to, because I definitely think like my son needs to know what a vagina is. So
yeah,
like
we were talking about this
like,
with periods and tampons and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So he definitely knows what a tampon, is used for.
Can you please tell everyone what he said when?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So he's in the bathroom like any mom who knows their kid follows them into the bathroom.
Yeah, we can't go to the bathroom alone.
Yeah. So he's just hanging out, but I'm on my period and I use tampons. And so he's playing with the tampons. It's like, okay, well, I really need that back because I need to use it. So I use it and he goes, oh, it's like magic. Where did it go? Where did it go? So he still thinks it's a magical tampon because he doesn't quite grasp this period idea yet. Yeah. But I love that I can have these open discussions with him. And actually, every one of my mom friends is for the most part. And I love that about where we are in culture now.
Yeah. It's not like, let me take you to this room and tell you this secret thing that only you know.
Right.
Girl.
Right. When you're of age. Right. Yeah. Or whatever that time is. And, I think about Oliver. So there's like this toxic masculinity and then there's like toxic femininity. There's all these things that are on the extremes. I guess at the end of the day, I just want both of them to be like confident, happy, well-adjusted kids who is empathetic to others, have a high EQ and like happy with what they're doing. It's a simple concept, but harder to actually, I feel like. Like, how do you do all that? But anyway, I'm working on it.
No, I know it's so hard. And like, I will find myself getting really triggered about little things in part because like, I think I just don't understand stereotypical boy energy. Some of the like really aggro, outbursty stuff that I think is just like normal hormonal stuff. But I'm like, oh my God, am I raising a sociopath? And then everyone's like, no, my kid is also jumping on us and hitting us or whatever it is. Or like a fascination with what he calls shooters.
Oh yeah.
From Star Wars or whatever. And it's just like, it doesn't mean anything other than he's just like plugged into what his peers are talking about. But it's so hard to not try and take the whole of the parenting internet and try and like cram it into your kids.
Yes. And then you're like, wait, okay, gentle parenting, yes, but then also boundary, like how is all that coming together? And my son is the firstborn, and so he definitely falls into that firstborn like stereotype. Just little bit more cautious, observes the world a little bit. And then my daughter, like, she's like jumping on me like a jumping spider. I'm like, what's going on here? So it's how that balance comes to fruition. And like definitely try, girl versus boy. It's like a whole parenting lesson every day, it feels like.
Well, I feel like you're one of these people who is super self-aware in a way that you're like, okay, I know how I was parented. I love my parents, and also I know how I want to do things maybe a little like differently with my kids, and so it has to feel exciting in a way because you're like, I'm excited when my kid one day comes to me and says they don't want to be a doctor or whatever it is, and you're gonna be like, cool, I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, I am. I definitely am there. Like I was blown away the other day when Oliver, my son, he's just like, he was definitely in a moment of tantrums and he's like, I'm so frustrated with you. And like, I guess I didn't expect those words to come in his mouth. Yeah. Especially like a 4-syllable word. I don't know. I was like, oh, do you even know what that is? But I'm happy he was able to verbalize that because in no time in my childhood would I ever be able to verbalize my emotion about my parents and have it be okay. So in that way, I'm like, all right, he verbalized it. Now what? I'm like, what next? And we'll cross that bridge when it happens. I don't know.
Well, I'm so excited to continue to watch your journey, both in terms of your parenting reflections, because I feel like we're in a similar spot and we're learning similar things and surprising ourselves by what we're surprised about. And also because you are in this chapter, like so many people who come on this podcast, where you are in a phoenix moment where you're redefining, you're redrawing the boundaries of what you want in the context of your career and your parenting.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to follow along, and we have a bunch of stuff to put in the show notes, but I hope you're not a stranger to the pod because this was wonderful.
This was so fun. You made it feel like home. I didn't even feel like we're recording. So
You're
thank
literally
you for
in
having
a home,
Yes.
in the closet with all the shoes. We'll talk to Vanessa again soon. Everybody tune in next week. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Team, I need your help. If you love it here, please like and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe to the Substack for full access to this episode's show notes and join the discussion. And of course, follow me on Instagram at Mutha, MUTHA.life for a daily look at all things Mutha. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next week for another Chat in the Closet. This podcast was produced by Mutha Life, music by Ronan Landa. See you next time.